awaken us to the word. I thank you for this platform that we are all able to come together to study his word and to fellowship together and to praise his name together. And I just thank him for each and every one of our lives. So I'm going to give him all honor and all esteem. We get ready to go forward. Oh, I would like to also thank him for a beautiful week of Shabbat. Again, for everybody that was able to make it safely and return home safely. And also thank you for bringing us all through another week, because there's some that did not make it yet through another day. So Toda Yah, Toda Yah, Toda Yah. All right, we'll be picking back up. We've covered a part of Bereshit, chapter 9 in our previous Shabbat Eve study, but we didn't get to complete the completion of it. So we will read it from the beginning again. Kanaka, if we could start off with Bereshit, which is Genesis in the beginning, chapter 9. Bereshit of Genesis, chapter 9 is where we start our reading at tonight, just to go back to the thought, and then we'll go forward from where we left off.
Bereshit for Genesis chapter 9. And Elohim blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that move upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But the flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall you not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. And at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother, will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of Elohim made he man. And you be fruitful and multiply. Bring forth abundantly in the earth and multiply therein. And Elohim spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark to every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood. Neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And Elohim said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you, for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between Elohim and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And Elohim said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant, which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken. And he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be Elohim of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Elohim shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years, And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died.
Moreh, if you're speaking, sir, we don't hear you.
Toda Zakane. Let me rewind. Okay, so of course we know we're coming off of the flood, from where the whole earth was flooded and destroyed because mankind was continually evil and wicked, and they went outside of the commandments of the Most High and was living very wickedly. We've established that Noah heard the call of the Most High when the Most High told him to build the ark, so he and his family built the ark. They walked onto the ark and they did all those things in faith. And they went into the ark. The destruction took place, and he was on this ark for a very long time. And we got very graphic with the details of what that journey or that trip had to be like. We also seen when he got off the ark, the very first thing that Noah did when he got off the ark was he sacrificed of the clean animals unto the Most High. We were covering that when he went onto the ark, he took 7 of a kind, male and female, which means 14 clean of a kind, the male and the female of each kind, and unclean, it would have been 4. It says 2, but 4 meaning the male and the female, which would be double that number. So he took way more clean than unclean, establishing the fact that the dietary or the Most High's clean and unclean animals was from the very beginning, and man knew that from the very beginning, the difference between clean and unclean. And even though we may not see it written in the script, every conversation that the Most High had with all of the disciples, the prophets before us and before our generations, every single word that the Most High has said is not recorded in the book. So we have to use that wisdom to also understand that when, just like when you gave testimonies tonight, you gave a portion of what you experienced when you praise the Most High, but every detail and every word was not spoken. So we have to use that same wisdom when reading the scriptures to understand that everything we read in the text is not all. Even the Messiah says that all the books could not even be written or even fit in the world of everything that is done of him and of his Father. The world couldn't even contain all the books that would have to be written. So with that understanding, we must understand from wisdom and from knowledge that at some point, the Most High let man know from the very beginning the difference between clean and unclean animals, because Noah knew what to take onto the ark and what to take onto the ark of clean and unclean. We've also covered about Enoch and as well as Noah. They walked with Elohim. So what does it mean to walk with Elohim? They were obedient to the commands or whatever instructions the Most High has given them. And though we may not see every instruction that the Most High has ever given to Enoch as well as Noah, we know the story and the history of Enoch. Enoch was considered righteous. He ascended up into Shemayim with the Most High because of his righteousness. So therefore, even though we cannot read exactly what Enoch's righteousness was, we understand by what he was teaching the people, the commandments of the Most High. We understand that Noah, knowing what to take onto the ark of clean and unclean, that the dietary or the clean, and or should I say, the clean and unclean animals, even before the dietary law was written and given to Israel, before there was ever an Israelite born, and this is hundreds of years before there being an Israelite, there was already the knowledge of clean and unclean animals, okay? So when he got off the ark, the first thing he did was he gave thanks to the Most High. This is a part of what we actually touched on at Shabbat also, the fact of when Noah got off the ark, because of his deliverance and his salvation, the first thing that he did was build the altar and sacrifice of the clean unto the Most High. All right, so that's just a quick summary for us to try to keep everything in focus as we're going forward. It says, Elohim blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So they had a duty and a purpose and a responsibility, but before even receiving that, the Most High had favor upon them and he blessed them because of Noah's righteousness, because we've read previously that Noah found favor in the sight of the Most High. Therefore, the Most High blessed him and his sons, and he told them to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So that fruitful and multiply, meaning they're going to have to produce more mankind and more children. They're going to have to make sure that the livestock that they're taking off the ark are put in a place where they're cared for and they're able to reproduce. They also are going to have to be bringing forth the words of Elohim and his righteousness in the earth, so that fruitful and multiply it covers a physical as well as a spiritual understanding of what they must do. So righteousness in them should actually multiply in the earth as well. It says, in the fear of you and the dread, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast and the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. So we know that from the very beginning, he gave Adam and Eve dominion or rule or authority over all creation. Okay. And so here we're seeing that also he's saying that the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, which is also stating or showing the authoritative role that the Most High has given man on the earth. And even though we know that man is not the strongest being on the earth or the strongest creature on the earth, with the mindset of man, our thought process, the things that we can create, the traps that we can make for apprehending or trapping or even killing large game or animals or beasts. We know that there's some beasts that can kill a man with one swipe, okay? But the point is, with even all those beasts, even some of the most dangerous beasts, a lot of times the presence of man, just for example, at Sukkot, we do Sukkot in the wilderness, and we have a rule, and the rule is whenever you eat your food and stuff at Sukkot, that we have an area for the trash. The reason why we say we have an area for the trash and we don't want eating throughout the whole campsite is because food attracts livestock. The food attracts the animals. So just because you don't see them, don't mean they're not there. We're in the woods. Therefore, they're in the woods also. And all praise, honor, esteem be to the Most High. We've been doing Sukkot for years in woods or in the wilderness type environments. And praise be to the Most High. Yes, we may see an occasional snake here or there, or we can hear coyotes afar off getting a little closer. But what you never really see is any of those animals actually coming into the presence of where man is. That is that fear that the Most High put upon the animals. Even though most of us would be terrified of an animal if we didn't have any weapon and we know they have teeth and claws, we will be scared of them. But the rulership, the dominion, even the natural beings in the earth, or the animals and the beasts in the earth, still have a form of fear for mankind. So that if you go to a place that's uninhabited for a long time, the animals generally rule. But if you start putting man there, the animals go further back into the woods and they try to get away from the presence of man. It's even told that if you want to have certain repellents for snakes from coming in your yard and certain animals, it tells you that if, and I know a lot of people don't want to do this because me and my Isha, we've been trying to get snake away because there's been a couple of poisonous snakes seen in our area, in our yard and in neighbor's yard. So they have this stuff called snake away, but someone told me that deals with this type thing that's country bred, that all you have to do is take bottles of your urine and your son's urine and go around the yard and go around certain areas to put around, because the smell of a human's urine keeps the snakes away and certain other animals. So that is, again, for people that want to think that the Big Bang created everything, that is a divine power that has us here that's not the most strong being, that some animals can kill us with a bite, a simple claw swing aside our heads, but they still have that respect for man. Now, yes, if you catch them and they have rabies or they're rabid, or you go too far into their territory, you go too far into their territory, they will attack. But generally, as you're coming closer, they move further away, allowing that rule of man. And that's just amazing. But that's written right here in the word. And I don't even know if we've ever visualized that to even wonder, how is it that a lot of times animals do have that respect, or we're in certain areas, and even though there will be occasional animal attacks here or there, that it's not normal that wildlife normally just consumes us when we don't have weapons and we're out in the wilderness doing these feast days, and those animals are at bay and never really show their face until somebody breaks the rule. If someone breaks the rule, you may hear them coming closer and closer to the camp. And we've heard a coyote walk through the camp one night, but that was because someone actually brought a live lamb or goat into the campsite. So it was not coming for man, it was coming for that animal, which is seen as prey. But a lot of times those animals do not see man as prey. And that is the Most High Elohim, to have such a design as such. And it's written right in his word, which also, as it says in the book of Hebrews, the things are seen establishes our faith. The things that are seen lets us know that the unseen Elohim does exist, because according to his word, the dominion that he's given man, we can see it naturally in how wildlife and the animals actually conduct and behave when man is present, and how they kind of will be at bay and move further out of our territory as long as we don't go into their territory, or if they have young and babies and they get defensive. But most cases we'll find in around certain livestock. Praise y'all. All right. So again, he's establishing the dominion of man in the rest in the earth. Verse 3, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things, but flesh with the life thereof is in the blood. So of course, quick summary, it tells you right here in Bereshit, it tells you also in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, which is the Torah or the laws, that we should not eat the blood. When you go to the book of Acts and you start reading about the disciples in the Brit Kadashah of the New Testament, you see one of the main things that it said that you teach the Gentiles, or those that did not know Torah, did not know Yah, having these commandments taught to them every Shabbat as an Israelite that was born in this truth. One of the things that he told them was that they refrain from food sacrificed to idols, and they refrain from blood and eating blood. So that is a big concept that the Most High has always had written in his word, that we do not eat things with blood in it. So steaks and things like that, we don't eat them rare or medium rare or any of that nonsense. That is us following the customs and traditions of other nations. But an Israelite is not supposed to eat the blood. Therefore, we eat our food well done. All right. And at this particular point, we also see that he said, every moving thing that liveth should be meat for you. So he's letting them know that of the clean beast, you can also eat of the clean beast also that moves and creeps. There is a doctrine out now that that some are teaching that Satan has us actually eating meat, and the Most High never intended for us to eat meat. So there's a whole nother doctrine out that others teach. But we see here that according to the Torah of Yah, that he let man know that of every living thing that moveth, but again, with the proper understanding, it wasn't saying every animal. They already knew they brought clean on, they sacrificed clean to the Most High. Therefore, it was going to be of the clean animals that the Most High said is clean. They're also meat for you to eat if you desire to do so. And if you don't desire to do so, you can continue to eat the herbs as you've been eating before this time period, where the Most High is now saying, be fruitful, multiply, and of the livestock that you brought on, you can now also eat of the meat or of the animals also. Okay. Dropping down to verse 8. In verse 8, and Elohim spake unto Noah and unto his sons with him, saying, and I, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you. I want to focus on this word for covenant for a moment. The word for covenant, if you want to look it up on your own time, it's the Hebrew word H1285 in the Strong's Concordance or the Brown Driver Briggs Concordance, which is just a couple of books that we utilize to define words. But the word for covenant is brit, which is going to be a covenant, a pledge, an alliance, a constitution, or ordinance, and it also says between men. So we understand that a covenant is sort of is like a contract, an agreement. It is a two-party thing. There's one person giving the instructions, and then someone else actually has to follow the instructions to be in that agreement. So he said, Elohim spake unto Noah and to his sons, saying, and behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you. So the Most High let me know that I'm coming into agreement with you and your sons. You are the ones who are still here in the earth. You are the ones who walked with me, mainly Noah, and your sons followed suit because you were the head of that house. So I will establish my covenant with you and your seed after you. So he established it with Noah and his seed after him, which are going to be his sons, okay? And so one reason why I want to focus on this word covenant is because we hear in the church, and again, remember, I'm never saying anything offensive. We're trying to be as informative as possible. So we hear about Old Testament, New Testament, when we're looking at it from a religious standpoint of church doctrine. But even the word for testament is supposed to be the word covenant, which is an agreement between the Most High and mankind, or whom the Most High entered the agreement with. And if we agree to enter into that agreement with the Most High, there's a brit or a covenant And when you look at it from the Hebraic understanding, it's like a writing or etching of something into something. So it is something that's a bond. It's supposed to be something that's etched in, that's scribed into something that you remember. So Old and New Testament, or Old and New Covenant, is something that we have in our mind from a church perspective. And to say that the Old Testament is done away with, it actually does away with the covenant of the Most High. Or should I say the covenants of the Most High? Because to say the Old Testament or the Old Covenant, you're trying to do away with the Old Testament as a book. They're calling the Old Testament like a book, but it's not a book. The Old Testament is made up of historical writings, recordings, laws, statutes, commandments, testimonies, witnesses of lives of people, and it's a recording of history, and it's also a book of covenants. So, and we're going to see that here in just a moment, because we read about the rainbow. The rainbow itself is a covenant. And if the Most High said here, as we just read, that, and I'll read it for the sake of everybody being together. So dropping down to verse 11, it says, and I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off anymore by the waters of a flood, neither shall there anymore be a flood to destroy the earth. And Elohim said, this is the token of the oath of the oath of the covenant, or the sign, or the marking. This is the sign of the covenant, which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. That word there for perpetual is olam. Olam is long duration, antiquity, forever, everlasting, evermore, perpetual. So perpetual is something that continues. This is a continual for generation and generation and generation, everlasting, olam, or forever covenant with generations to come. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token or oath or sign of a covenant between me and the earth. So then my question will be, do we still see rainbows? If we still see rainbows, a rainbow is just not happening just to happen. The rainbow is a sign of the covenant that the Most High made with mankind, as well as the animals that are on the arets or on the earth, that it would not, as well. And he said he made this covenant with the arets itself, the earth. So he also made this covenant with the earth itself, that I would never destroy you. I will never destroy all mankind again with a flood, as I've done that time. So the fact that there's still a rainbow still occurring, and the word of the Most High said this is a sign of the covenant, it is letting us know that the Most High signs that's in Shemayim, or in the skies, the Rakia, or the firmament, which are the skies, the heavens, that we can see. Again, the visible things strengthens our faith, because it proves the invisible Elohim that we can't see because of his creation. And for those that want to try to say that his covenants are done away with, you can't even do so, because he's still putting his bow in the sky after storms, letting everybody know, calm down. I'm not going to destroy the earth with a flood again. There may be some damage from these storms that come through, but all mankind, of the whole arets of the whole earth, will never be destroyed that way by a storm of a flood ever again. So there are still rainbows. That is a sign of a covenant, which means the covenant still stands. There will be no need or no purpose for a rainbow if the covenant was gone. So that is a sign and a reminder, but because we have not been educated, we have not been instructed or taught from the words or the instructions of the Most High, most people do not have that understanding of the rainbow. And so whenever we are hearing someone say that the Old Testament, as they commonly call it, is done away with, we have to understand that the Old Testament, commonly called itself, is a book full of many covenants, not just one covenant. It's a book of covenants, and we can summarize it and call it the covenant, because as Yisrael, as things was written and put into Torah form or instruction form, and we saying we agree to all the words that are written. What we're saying is we agree to all the words of Elohim that are written in his Torah, which has all the covenants. So to do away with the Old Testament would be doing away with all the covenants of the Most High, because every covenant with the Most High was already established and proclaimed to our forefathers in their times when they lived, and that's going to be in what's commonly called the Old Testament or in ancient times, and they were alarmed or they were everlasting and perpetual, which we are under the same covenants that they were under if we obey and keep his commands. So again, that word covenant is very important. And in case many of us didn't know, there are many covenants that are written in the what's commonly called Old Testament. All right. So again, I want to highlight that. All right. Verse 17, well, verse 16. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it that I may remember the everlasting covenant between Elohim and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And Elohim said unto Noah, this is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. So again, he's saying this is going to be a reminder for him. It's also a reminder to us or to mankind that has the knowledge of the word of Elohim. And it goes back to what we was teaching on also at Shabbat, the fringes. We don't wear fringes for a fashion statement. We should not be arguing about who has on the right type of fringes. We need to start looking at the principles that the Most High have in his word and stop trying to be over righteous and saying who wears this or how someone else's fringes look. The fact that they, in their mind, they say, I read in the word of Elohim, and it says, I should do this so that I will remember to keep his commandments. What is the purpose and the function of the fringe? So some people will debate what it should look like, and mine is better than yours, and I have on the right type. And then it would be those that would make an excuse not to wear them at all because they feel like, well, none of you are doing it right, which is not valid either. It's the principle. It is a reminder to keep us mindful, to keep the commandments of the Most High. Therefore, we should wear fringes on the four corners of our garments with a border of blue, as written in Bamidbar or Numbers, as well as what's written in Devarim or Deuteronomy when it comes to fringes or ZZ. And just quickly while on that, when it says, and a lot of people, that's why we have to educate ourselves so that we can be a light into our families. So most of our families go to church and they believe commonly in Christ, as they call him. We refer to him as Mashiach from the Hebraic. But when you read the scripture about the woman who was healed from touching the hem of his garment, it was actually, she touched the zizit of his garment. The hem is actually going to be the fringe portion of his garment. So when we lack the understanding and we don't have the understanding of the word ourselves, sometimes a person can use their English or Greco-Roman thought process and have us denouncing our traditions, heritage, and customs of things that the Most High set up. But as we study to show ourselves approved, we understand that the Messiah himself had fringes or zitzits, and the hem is going to be the zitzit of the garment. So there are different types of fringes and zitzits. Another lesson for another time, but I'm only tying that in now to show that the Most High put certain things in place for us to remember, as well as for him to remember, for us to see and know what a covenant is, for us to be able to identify someone that's under covenant, someone that has the Ruach of Yah. After the storm happens, we can see the presence of Yah. All praise, honor, esteem to the Most High. When me and the brothers were on the land that the Most High has blessed us to obtain, to try to form our community for our believers. But when we were there, for whatever reason, none of us seen the rainbow. But in the pictures that I was taking of the Akim while they were clearing the land, in the pictures, the rainbow was beaming directly on them. And the thing about it was, we didn't even experience rain when we was there that I can recall. I don't even recall us experiencing any rain while we were there. But in those pictures, the rainbow was shining directly on the Akim while we were high up on the hill of the property, which to me, we went to pray for the land. We prayed over the land. And I was like, wow, we asked the Most High to bless the land, and he shined the rainbow on the Akim. And I didn't even see it when I took the pictures. I didn't see it until I got back home and I started looking through the photos that we took, and the rainbow was touching the brothers. So that to me was amazing, because that was the Most High letting me know his presence was with us. So hallelujah. So his rainbow came out on a day when it was not even any rain, because it didn't even rain that day. But if you have the understanding of his word, then it was a sign of the covenant, and the Most High see that we're trying to return to covenant with him. So again, the fringes is something to remind us to be mindful, to keep the commands of the Most High and the things we should or should not be doing to keep us mindful. He also put that rainbow up so we would know that he's not going to destroy the earth again, as well as a reminder that he made that covenant with us, okay? And we can identify his presence or his will in things by the signs that he leaves us. And he can identify those who are truly trying to be his children by the signs that we show him back. So, so again, a covenant is going to be of utmost importance, and there are signs of a covenant or signs of one that is partaking or willing to submit to the covenant of the Most High by the sign that we produce or show. All right. That's why it also tells you that keeping the Shabbat is a form of a sign of the covenant, and that's how he identifies children, by the Shabbats they keep. If a person says that the Shabbat doesn't matter, they don't want to keep a Shabbat, you're not in covenant with the Most High, even though some people claim to be. But the Most High said he knows them by the Sabbaths they keep. So by the way we're keeping the commandments, we are marking, or we're showing the Most High what's in our foreheads, or what's in the forefront of our mind. All right. So moving forward to verse 18, these are the sons and the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. We know that Canaan was going to be the promised land in which Israel was going to go to. But first, it started off with Hamites being in that land, or Canaanites, which descend from the seed of Ham. It said, these are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. So it's letting us know that now the commandment to be fruitful and multiply is now taking place with Noah and his sons and the wives that was on the ark with them, because everyone else was destroyed. So their commandment, today you have some people that want to say, well, I don't want to have no children. They were given a commandment to be fruitful and multiply because the earth had to be replenished. Had they not followed that command, even though we know some wickedness did take place with some of them, but had they not followed that command, then some of us might not have ever been in existence, because by them was the earth overspread once again by children starting to be born in the earth. Okay. And that hard question that somebody wants to ask, table that one, because I know it's on the forefronts of somebody's mind about being populated through those people. Let's hold that, because we will be talking about some of that stuff when we get into genealogies, and also the law of what cannot be done today still that was done at that time, as far as having children in a close-knit family like that. Once we get to the Torah, we will understand how some of that population did take place also. All right. So, and Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. So again, this is showing us how Noah now had to be a husbandman. So he began to be a husbandman. He had to get out here to care for the arets in the earth. I got to now replant seed. I got to cultivate the earth. I got to, do this work. I got to labor. I have to labor. So he's not being a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. So he's working and he's planted a vineyard. And it says, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. So we know that when you get to the book of Mishlei, which is Proverbs, it lets us know not to be drunken. It lets us know that it's okay for our often infirmities and pains of the heart and things like that. You can have a strong drink, only do it in moderation. So there is nothing wrong. So I know a lot of times when we're in the Christian church, and even some of us may frown upon people that drink wine or yayin, but according to Torah, according to Tanakh, or the writings of old, having yayin or wine is not a sin. Having a strong drink is not a sin. And so we can see how when people frown upon certain things, they've created doctrines of what sin is while allowing sin to be not seen as sin. So a lot of times certain churches look at drinking as a sin or look at it in a negative light. And some of our conditioning when we first come to the walk, because of what we were taught, we look at drinking yayin or wine as a negative, when drinking wine or yayin is not a negative. It is to be done in moderation. He said, for your often infirmities, you can have a strong drink. So it is nothing wrong with having a strong drink. And it said, it gives you joy, it mellows you out. If you're stressed out, you just need to relax. Those strong drinks can sometimes put you in a mellow mood. It can make you joyful if you're down, but we're not supposed to do it to the point of drunkenness. So I just wanted to cover that. Now, you may see that there's some of us that you don't see partake of the yayin, and that's for our own personal reasons why we don't, not that we judge anyone else. So I'm just bringing it out now because I know when we fellowship with others, sometimes you will see some drinking yayin, even though you may not see some amongst us drink the yayin or some that you do. It's a personal preference if a person does not drink the yayin, not because we are against drinking strong drink, because biblically or Torah speaking, there's nothing wrong with it. We're just not supposed to be to the point of being drunken. So we says here that Noah drank and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. So there are differing doctrines out on this. I'm going to try to keep it in the context of what's written here. So there are those that will say that this uncovering his father's nakedness here, or him seeing his father's nakedness, they take it to the point of saying that Ham did some homosexual activity with his father. You know, that's one of the teachings that's out there. But what I see here is it says, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw. The word there written for saw is H7200, gonna be 7200, H7200, which is Re'ah, which is to see, to look, to perceive. It can mean to consider. So you're thinking about something. So whether he was having wicked thoughts or whatever, what have you. But for the most part, when it said is to see something, he saw the nakedness of his father and told his brethren without. So there's a commandment to tell us not to make light of our father and mother, and to jokingly joke about your father's nakedness, to go and laugh and to go let your brothers know. He himself did not even have to go report that to his brothers. He could have simply said, our father had a little too much to drink. We did have some stressful times, hard days work, coming off the ark, and now we're trying to replenish the earth. He had a little too much to drink, and he left himself uncovered. So as a son, I should cover my Abba up. I should not sit there and look upon his nakedness, talk about his nakedness, go make mockery of his nakedness, go tell my brothers about his nakedness. I could have simply covered him up. So when Ham tells his brothers, verse 23, Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid upon both their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. So just in the context, he looked at him, he could have stared upon him, he could have came out and made jokes about him. All of that context is not there. You know, all of that context is not there of what all was taking place. But the point is, he went and told someone. Why is that something that has to be told? He could have done the same thing that they did. They walked in backwards. You told us, we don't want to see that. And so quickly, Kanaka, if you would, jump for me to the book of Wayikra, Leviticus chapter 11. Leviticus chapter 11. Slika, 18. Leviticus chapter 18. And we're going to start at 1. Wayikra, and he called, or Leviticus chapter 18, start with verse 1.
And Yah speaking to Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, and saying to them, I am Yah Elohim. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall you not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall you not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. You should do my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk therein. I am Yah Elohim. You should therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yah. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am Yah.
Okay, so let's pause here for a second. So we see here, so now we have somewhat of a time period change here, because now we're reading about Moses speaking to the children of Israel as they come out of Mitzrayim. Their minds have to be renewed. They're learning the traditions and the customs of the Most High. So Yah spoke to Moses saying, tell the children of Israel, after the doings of the land of Egypt, of the lands of Canaan, and whithersoever I brought you, you shall not do, neither shall you walk in their ordinances. So in their ordinances, in their things that they would do, you should not do after them. Ye shall do my judgments and keep mine ordinances, to walk therein. I am Yahuwah your Elohim. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yahuwah. So we see here that doing the commandments of the Most High is a blessing. It says the man that do them shall live in them, meaning you should have long life. You shall be blessed, as Noah was blessed for much longer than those that died in the flood, because he walked with Elohim. He walked in the commandments of the Most High. Therefore, Noah had a long life compared to some of the families that were destroyed for their disobedience. But again, so he's letting Israel know now that you do not continue in any of the customs or traditions or customs of the heathen nations that you've been living in, that you've been brought through, that you've been brought to. Don't do any of what they do. You do what I command you to do. Verse 6, none of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am Yahuwah. So in context here, this does go beyond just simple nakedness. It can go into you should not actually try to lie with someone. You should not join yourself that way to someone. But it also means on the base level that you should not be seeing the nakedness of anyone that is near kin to you. Verse 7, Kanak.
The nakedness of your father or the nakedness of your mother shall you not uncover. She is your mother, you shall not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of your father's wife shall you not uncover. It is your father's nakedness. The nakedness of your sister, the daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness shall you not uncover. The nakedness of your son's daughter or of your daughter's daughter, even their nakedness shall you not uncover, for theirs is your own nakedness. The nakedness of your father's wife's daughter, begotten of your father, she is your sister. You should not uncover her nakedness. You should not uncover the nakedness of your father's sister. She is your father's near kinswoman. You should not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister. She is your mother's near kinswoman. You should not uncover the nakedness of your father's brother. You shall not approach to his wife. She is your aunt. You should not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife.
Okay, so for your own reading purpose, you can come here. So in the Torah, there are laws written for everything. So now these are the laws of nakedness, and whose nakedness you're not to uncover, whose nakedness you're not to look upon, nor are you to uncover yourself, meaning you should not want to unwrap them. You should not want to embrace them in your arms in a sexual manner. You should not want to do any of these things because of who they are. They're your near kins. And it starts off going about your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, it's still going to be whole sister, but you know, according to Israel, in Israel, we know that the 12 tribes of Israel came into being from different mothers. So some of the 12 tribes did not have the same mothers, even though they had the same fathers. And it was customary that men could have more than one wife in Israel because they were being fruitful and multiplying. So that is in the text. And so with that being said, so it says the daughter of your mother that was born in the house or born out of the house, meaning you can have a sister that is not of your mother, but your father still is the father of this person. That's still your sister. You don't uncover her nakedness. So we can even read about King David, how his son actually uncovered the nakedness of one of his sisters, and the brother of that sister who had the same mother wanted to kill that brother. But it's letting us know that these things are immoral. These things should not take place. So seeing the nakedness of a father, a mother, you know, now, of course, when they get in old age and we have to take care of them, it's a very uncomfortable thing. That is the reason why a lot of the times, if it is a mother that's sickly, if there are brothers and sisters, generally the women it should be the woman that would bathe and take care of the imam of the family, because they are female, you know. And even though it can be uncomfortable, and it should be uncomfortable, because for a child, we should not see the nakedness of our parents. If in their right minds, they will not expose their nakedness to us, We shouldn't be peeping under doors trying to see nakedness or even wanting to see nakedness. And I use that term because I've seen or I've known people that have done things like that. We should not want to see the nakedness of our parents, of our sister, of our uncle, our aunt, you know, and it went very detailed in that. So going back to where we are at, so drop that Kanak, y'all. So I just want to, again, show that for those that want to think that these men did not know any laws before Moses received the law at Sinai, the Most High always had his instructions in the Rets. And the proof is we just read the law about clean and unclean animals, how they knew this already in Bereshit in Noah's time. And now when they came off the ark, the reason why Ham was cursed because he looked upon, made fun of, or something that he was not supposed to do in reference or regard to his father's nakedness, nor did he cover it. He actually was going to even uncover even more by going and broadcasting it to his brothers. And I'm thinking it had to be something more jokingly. Hold 1 second. Okay, so we're gonna go. Well, I'll come back to that as I can. Yaakov, total for that. We speak on that as well. So there's another mindset also of uncovering your father's nakedness, like Zakane was saying. Well, let's jump there real quick while we talk about this topic. Kanak, jump to while you cry, Leviticus chapter 20. And verse 11. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 11. Kanak, yeah.
And the man that lieth with his father's wife have uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them.
So here's another precept of you being utilized about uncovering nakedness, giving us that it shows that it can go beyond just physically looking upon their nakedness. So it says, and the man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. So, so we've talked about King David, and we know that one of his sons actually did lie with one of his wives, which is an utter violation of Torah. So uncovering your father's nakedness, if you uncover your father's nakedness, a way of uncovering your father's nakedness is not just stripping him down to his nudity, but it's also uncovering his nakedness because his wife belongs to him. And if you uncover his wife, and if you lie with his wife, that is a form of uncovering your father's nakedness also. So when we get more into the laws, in these chapters of the Torah, we will focus more on some of these. But I just want to cover that. So there is the teaching or the belief that Ham. There are those that want to say that he did some homosexual act with his father, which I do not subscribe to at all. And there are, because of the scripture that Zakan Yaakov, when people are precepted it together, there's some that will be of the mindset, well, could it be possible that he lay with his father's wife? But when we say it said, when you go back to Bereshit, where we were at, Bereshit, Genesis chapter 9, we're going back to Genesis chapter 9 now. So it said that Noah was drunken and he was uncovered. So in the context of what's said here, is basically making it seem as if Noah himself was uncovered or naked, you know, and he uncovered his father's nakedness. And if we read it with just the simple context here, whatever it was that he did, we know that he went and he did contrary to the way his brothers conducted themselves when they went in backwards to cover their father's nakedness so that they did not look upon their father's nakedness. And also parents, not trying to be in anyone's house or anything, but at the same time trying to be, because it's the word of Elohim. That is the reason why it's of utmost importance that even our sons and daughters walk around the house proper, and they should be taught to walk around the house proper. If there's brothers and sisters, I know people say, well, that's my brother, that's my sister, well, that's my mama, that's my daddy, that's my daughter. Whatever the case may be, the Most High understands the mind of mankind. And the Most High says we should not be uncovering the nakedness. So the nakedness of our children should not be walking around the house dressed improper, walking around. If there is a female, she needs to have clothing on There are things that we call night clothing or house coats. A house coat, I know a lot of us, we like to sleep comfortably. So it's fine to sleep comfortably in the privacy of your bedroom under the covers, but walking around exposed, you know what I'm saying? That is a no-no in the house. I don't care if it is your daughter. I don't care if it is your mother and father. Oh, it's just my brother. No, you're supposed to be covered. You're supposed to be covered when company comes over to the house. You shouldn't just be walking through with night clothing on, exposing ourselves. That is the reason why we have so many horror stories in our communities, not just the awakened version of our community. I'm just talking about in our communities of families in general, where there's been young children molested or raped based upon, and you will always have people that want to say they need to control themselves. And that's, yes, it is wicked. It's utmost wicked for anyone to go against a child's will and to rape them. Yes, it is. I agree. But we need to stop with the excuse of where they need to control themselves. I done heard church people say it when you tell people about dressed immodest in the church with these women in it with these little short dress and with their cleavage and stuff out, where people should control themselves. They men of God. No, a woman of God should be exposed, period. And yes, a man should control himself, but we should help each other out by following laws. We should all be modest. Men should be modest, women should be modest, and we should not be exposing nudities or nakedness causing one to stumble, okay? So I just want to go there because I do know sometimes there are uncomfortable episodes that can happen in households, and sometimes children in their innocence, sometimes it's innocent, and sometimes it might not be as innocent as you think that it is. That when these young children who are now starting to blossom, they themselves also start to know that they are blossoming or they are a blooming flower, and sometimes they want the attention. We're not supposed to give them that type of attention, nor allow anyone else to see them in that light, all right? So the nakedness should not be exposed. That's according to the Torah of the Most High. So anytime, you know, and I know that when you express these things to children sometimes, from a child mindset and also from a lot of parents' mindsets, you know, they were looking at it like, well, that's my daughter, you know, and I'm her mother, so we can lay around in our, no, mother and daughter should not be laying around in their panties. It's inappropriate. But we were raised that way. I know how it was. We was raised that way. I mean, hey, it's all girls. The girls can go ahead and they can do this. The boys over there, they all boys. Nakedness should not be uncovered. All right. That's the word of Yah for the children of Yah. Hallelujah. All right. So moving on. So verse 24. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, cursed be Canaan, or Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, blessed be Yahuwah Elohim of Shem and Canaan, of the Elohim of Shem, colon, a semicolon, and Canaan shall be his servant. Elohim shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. So because of this thing that, Shlika, one moment. So I'm trying to see the message that was written. Okay, so Zakane put in for the mindset that some may have as if Noah just was trying to go off to be a drunkard. So Zakane put in the messenger, something to consider with respect to Noah's drunkenness. Prior to the flood, the atmospheric pressure of the earth was quite different. Hence, the fermentation process was different after the flood. We have no record that drunkenness was something that Noah indulged in prior to the flood, nor after the flood, with the exception of this one instance, right? So maybe not knowing his tolerance, or the wine was stronger than what he was used to. For whatever reason, this one time he had a little too much to drink. Okay, and it was, and as Zakane said, it was nothing prior or after that stating that Noah was ever a drunkard, or Noah was not labeled as a drunkard. He was labeled as a righteous man, one that walked with Elohim. Taught up for that, Zakane. And in closing this chapter out, so because of that behavior, that made his father upset with him, that he knew what his younger son had done. So he said, cursed be Canaan. So now he's going to be a servant. So you're going to be in service to your brother is what you're going to be because of what you've done. that's going to now put you in service as a servant to your brother. One of the lines that I want to focus on is 27. Elohim shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. So this verse is going to be very key as we move further in Torah, but I'm going to touch on it briefly now for historical recording. So it's letting us know that Japheth is going to be large, but Japheth will also dwell in the tents of Shem. Why is that important for us to know? Because when we find out who Japheth is, and we're going to be finding out in just a moment, when you find out who Japheth is or who he's the progenitor or the father of, the importance of him dwelling in the tents of Shem is going to show that the children that are in the land today are people that's dwelling in the tents of Shem, because Shem is not the one. There are some Shemites still in the land, or some Shemitic people that are in the land right now, but still dwelling within the land of Israel today are going to be Japhites, Japhetic people, and not Shemitic people. And they're dwelling in the tents of Shem. And so the reason why the traditions and the customs that they hold and is keeping them in the land as it is today, one is because, first and foremost, Israel broke the commandments of the Most High, which is the Shemitic people, which is the bloodline of Shem. They did not keep the commandments of the Most High. They broke the commandments and we were expelled. But because Shem and Japheth were dwelling in close proximity, the Japhites still knew the laws of Elohim because they were dwelling in the tents of Shem. And that is the reason why some of them are still dwelling in the tents of Shem until this day, or should I say in the land of Shem until this day, because they were enlarged, but at the same time, they are dwelling in the tents of Shem. Even when Shem is not dwelling in his own tents anymore, Japheth is still dwelling there, all right? So I'm going to yield at this point on chapter 9. Zakane or any of the elders or Adon Kanaka, do y'all have anything to share in reference to this chapter before we move forward to the next chapter?
Moreh, I think you hit everything, and the highlight of 27, hallelujah, I think that was important, and the way you brought it out too. So hallelujah, I don't have anything to add. Okay, Toda
Zakane, all praises, hallelujah. All right, Kanaka, I don't see the other elder with his hand up or anything. So Kanaka, let's move forward to chapter 10 of Bereshit.
Bereshit for Genesis chapter 10. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided by their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families and their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramah, and Sabteka. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before Yah. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yah. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Ashur, and builded Nineveh, and the city Rehoboth, and Calah. And Rezin between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. Mizraim begot Ludum, Anamim, and Lahabim, and Naphtuhim, and Pathrusim, and Cashlusim, out of whom came Philistine, and Caphtorim. And Canaan begot Zidon, his firstborn in Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Arkite, and the Sunite, and the Arvadite, and the Zamarite, and the Hamathite. And afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites was from Zidon as you come to Gerar, unto Gaza, as you go unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zobim, even unto Lashah. These are the sons of Ham after their families, after their tongues, in their countries and in their nations. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begot Salah, and Salah begot Eber. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. And his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan begot Almodad, and Shalef, and Hazarmaveth, and Jerah, and Hadaram, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ovir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Mishah, as you go unto Sephar, a mountain of the east. These are the sons of Shem after their families, after their tongues, and their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations and their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood.
All right, hallelujah. So this reading here, in some Bibles you may see it, they call it the Table of Nations, because basically this is showing, as we've already read in the previous chapter, that Noah and his sons were told to be fruitful and multiply, and it said by these were the earth repopulated, or how the earth was overspread. So now it's going into, it's starting off, now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. So what we've just read was the recording of Noah's sons repopulating the earth and the children that they will bring into the earth. And of the names of these children, there were going to be families or nations that derived of these children. So we have different nations that from these children that are going to come into the earth. So, and what I want to also focus on is, as we focus back in the book of Bereshit, chapter 2, we was focusing on how from the beginning, the Most High wanted to make sure that man follow his commandments. And we also seen that he started off with the importance of marriage, or husband and a wife, and the husband and the wife, the first husband and the wife was going to actually repopulate and start to have children. So what we're going to see is that the word for generations here in Genesis 10 and verse 1 is going to be H8435. The word for generation is Toledah, and sometimes you see Toledot, which is going to be plural, which is going to be descendants, proceedings, or genealogies, or the generations. So generations or genealogies, even though it does tell us not to argue over genealogies, meaning we should not be getting in knock down, drag out fights over genealogies and causing separations, because it's more so important that we know the laws, statutes, commandments, and we keep them. It is important for us to know genealogies, but if there's ever a dispute, we shouldn't get caught up into disputing over genealogies and losing focus of the sight of what the Most High wants us to know. But genealogy is still important. And in the church, what the church has done is what they call replacement theology. Replacement theology. Replacement theology has replaced Israel with the church, and a specific church, the Christian church. So when you're taught in Christianity about the Most High, and they're teaching that the Messiah was sent to the church and things like that, no, he was sent to redeem his people from their sins. The Messiah, Yahusha, Yehoshua, Yeshua, whichever dialect one is more familiar with, Yahawashah, whichever dialect or phonetic sound of saying Yah itself we're accustomed to, he was born in the flesh as we were born in the flesh. And the way people want to make him red, right, blue, yellow, purple, he could be any color. There's not a person on the earth that's any color. You know, he was of a nation. Word in Hebrews tell us it is evident that Yahusha, Yeshua, Yehoshua sprang out of Judah, meaning he was an Israelite of the tribe of Judah. That's the word of Elohim for the children of Elohim and all the world. So I'm only going there for the sole purpose of when we teach things, we have to teach it clean, informative. This is historical writing. It is history. We have commonly called birth certificates because people want to know who you come from or who you descend from. So it's important to know who the Messiah descends from. It is important to know who we descend from. That will help us understand the punishments that we are under because of what we've done in error. Not to blame another race or nationality for how we are treated, but we should blame ourselves because we are the descendants of the forefathers that broke the commandments of the Most High. So it's important to know these genealogies, but not to get caught up in them. So going back to the genealogies for a moment, genealogies are important. If you read, such as now when you go back to Bereshit chapter 5, it tells you these are the generations of, it tells you these are the generations of Adam. These are the generations of Noah. So the Most High always made it important for us to understand the Toledah or the Toledot of our forefathers. So that's important. It is important to know this, and modern theology has us do away with all this stuff as it's not important. It is still important. There's a reason why people have certain personalities, why people have certain ways of worship. All this is associated with who their forefathers are, okay? So these are the generation of the sons of Noah, or the families. And again, to the Most High, family is important. Remaining within your family is important to control the bloodline of your family for the purpose of remaining a nation and not creating a sub-nation. All that stuff is important to the Most High in his word, okay? So the sons of Japheth, here we go. And here's why we're going to see why it's important. The sons of Japheth, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Teras. So to a lot of you who are new, that might not mean much because there's some hard names now. It used to be that way for me at one point. A part of this I'm not going to get into tonight for the sake of time, but Magog is one that we're going to want to focus on a little bit more. There's some that's doing a detailed study, so I would like to know their findings after they finish talking about Magog. I've thrown it out before, but I will give you a quick thought that some people think Gog and Magog, and it has a lot to do around, I'm going to say it in a summarized parabolistic version, not going into details. It's dealing with what's going on with the war, the current war. I'm going to table that for a moment. So the sons of Japheth, Gog, Madai, and Javan, which a lot of people will look to be the Greeks, Tubal, Meshach, and Tirash. So those names might not mean nothing to everyone, but there should be one that possibly go off to a lot. Sons of Gomer, which is still sons of Japheth, and the son.
We got Moreh.
Yes.
You're coming in and out. We hear about 3 words and then you skip, and then you come back in, and then we get about 3 more words, and then you blank out for a little while.
Okay, Todas, I can't let me know because we've been having some internet difficulties here, and we thought we had it resolved. But so Todas, how am I sounding now?
You sound good now, but it clips out every now and then, but it's very short. You clip out very short, but you might have said something in that little short that we need to hear. Okay. Todas, okay. So let me rewind for a moment. So as I was stating that sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, and Meshach, and Teras, these are actually nations that's in the earth today, okay? These fathers that repopulated the earth, there are descendants of these people that are still in the earth today. That is important to know. So right now, some of those names could be hard for us to understand. We may not know who all of them are. We may know who all of them are. It's not the class for this time. And I was sharing also that Magog and Gog is one of conversation that we can have at some point. I know some are already working on that a little bit, and we'll be discussing it more with their findings. But I said, and the Magog topic for some has a lot to do with what's going on in the earth today with the current war that's going on. So I said, I'm going to table that. Was that all clear as I came? Come on, Moreh, that was clear.
Okay. But what I was saying was now in verse 3, there is a name that possibly could pop out that everyone or a lot of you may already see. It says, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphtah, and Togarmah. So here it went into the sons of Japheth. Now it's going into the sons that Japheth's sons produced. So it starts off oldest son, Gomer, and his son is Ashkenaz. Has anyone heard the term Ashkenaz before? I'm going to pause it for a moment. Not any of the seniors, none of the Zakanim or anything, but any of the brothers and sisters. And if not, that's fine also. But when you may not think that you have heard of it until I make a statement here in a moment. Okay, yes, sir, Don Shah.
Okay, yeah, I heard that term before. When I hear it, it's normally referring to the Ashkenazi Jews.
Okay. So there are people in the earth today that still go under the name Ashkenaz. That is the Ashkenazi Jews. There are some that teach the Bible from a hateful perspective, and I don't knock them. I understand it says, surely oppression maketh a wise man mad. But in order for us to do a service to our people to help wake them up, people don't want to come to the Most High hearing a whole bunch of hate. And the reality is the Most High never told us to teach hate, he told us to acknowledge our sins and repent. It is our fault for the conditions that we're in. And in just teaching the Bible clean, minus a hateful vibration, let us take a look at this now. So there are people in the earth that still use the term Ashkenaz. There is a dialect of Hebrew that they would tell you there's a Sephardic dialect, there's an Ashkenazi dialect. So those two dialects are based upon two different types of what's commonly called Jews that are currently in the land of Israel today. A Sephardic Ashkenazi. An Ashkenazi Jew has a dialect of Hebrew. A Sephardic Jew has a certain dialect of Hebrew. The Ashkenazi or the Jewish people themselves would tell you it is inappropriate, and we can go into this when we go into a little bit more of our historical stuff. In their own writings or recordings, they say it's improper to refer to an Ashkenazi Jew or a Jewish person as an Israelite. They're not one and the same. But we won't know this because, like they say, if you put it in the book, we won't know about it. But in their books, they acknowledge that an Ashkenazi Jew is not an Israelite. They're not the same. However, people are looking at the Jewish people in the land today as the children of the book. They are Ashkenaz. And when you go into the historical writings of where they descend from, they are descendants of Gentiles. They are descendants of Japheth.
Moreh, you breaking up again. No.
Okay. Let me mute myself. Sorry, Johanna, are you? I'm going to log out and come back in and see if that'll help my connection. I just didn't want everybody to drop out. I want to make sure. Am I the co-host or the host?
You the host, but I can make myself the host.
Make yourself the host for a moment. Then log out and log back in.
Okay, it's on.
It's going in. Okay.
And so when we get further in, like the kings and the judges and all of that, and we start seeing these nations' names, we can go back to chapter 10 and see if we can find out who is the progenitor. So I just want to put that out there while we wait for Moreh Samak to get back in. That way, because a lot of times, like Moreh said, a lot of times when we read in the scripture and we see all these names, it's like, man, these names. But then when you start to get into the particular study, like in the Kings and the Judges, where it starts talking about these nations of people, we can go back to chapter 10 in Genesis, commonly called the Table of Nations, and see if we can track down who their progenitor is, where they, who their father was.
Told us I can. Can you hear me, Zakane?
Loud and clear. That's very clear, Moreh.
Okay, man, it shut me all the way down. I couldn't even get back in, so I tried to use my hotspot. Okay, speak out, Mr. Makai. Sorry, we're having these difficulties. All right. So, again, the statement I was making is that, the Ashkenaz Jews are actually, they are Japhetic people. They are of Japheth. They are actually Goyim, or what's commonly called Gentiles. But again, reason why we highlighted 9 and 27, because it already said that Japhet borders were going to be large, but they were also going to dwell in the tents of Shem. And that's why they are still dwelling in the tents of Shem, even to this day. It is not for us to hate them. It is not their fault we're in the condition that we're in. It's our forefathers' fault for breaking the law, statutes, and commandments. And there are those who are in the Hebrew community that anything that the so-called Jews do, they want it to be a negative. Everything that they're doing is not negative, because they at least remember Shabbat. They remember the feast. They are trying to keep these things. And that's part of why they are actually blessed, because they are keeping some of the customs and traditions that they learned when their forefathers came into the dwellings of the tents of Shem. So they retain some of these things. And when you go and you look at the crafty counsel that was taken, all nations know about who Israel is, a lot of times except for Israel. And I'm going back to the more ancient times of the nations, because there are modern people in society, in the world today, that have no clue. The same way we don't have no clue. They don't have no clue. They don't have a dog in the fight. They have absolutely nothing against us, and we should have absolutely nothing against them. But the elders of times past knew these things. And so, and even modern elders who are in the know, who have been informed, know these things. So Ashkenaz is a Gentile. And again, so when you see the term Ashkenazi Jew, and remember when Nick Cannon made his statement, I hate to go here, but he was about blackballed off of TV, as they called it. They were about to put him off of TV when he was proclaiming about the Shemitic people and who they were. And then they want to say he was speaking hatred for the Jews. He never once said he hated Jews, never. But what they did not want getting out was the fact that he's saying, I'm not anti-Shemitic. They're trying to make everyone anti-Shemitic that speaks against the so-called Jews in the land. He wasn't even speaking against them. He was just awakened to the truth of, I understand my Shemitic heritage and who I am, and we've been lied to as a people. And because he said certain things, he was about to be kicked off of Nickelodeon and the shows that he had, to the point where they made him humble himself, which, I pray he would have stood strong where he was at and just lost what he had to lose and let Yah reestablish him. However, that fear of losing fame and things like that, he kind of hushed his mouth, and you don't really see him speaking those truths anymore. But the reality of it is, and when most people, they listen to the narrative of the media. The narrative of the media made him seem like an anti-Shemitic, because they try to make an anti-Shemitic be someone that's against the so-called Jews that are in the land today. Whole nother story for another time. We put some of this historical lessons together. One of my brothers shared some information with me that at some point we'll share with everyone, with what they were saying about Hitler and what Hitler was doing. Hitler knew stuff about those Germans, or those people that was in Germany that were calling themselves Jews, or those Ashkenazis in that land. And it goes beyond what the world may know, and we're not going to go into that tonight. But the point is, there are people that know certain things, and we're not privy to that information. That's why we must study to show ourselves approved. So again, Ashkenaz and Ashkenazism, Ashkenazi, are Goyim, they're Gentiles. That is the reason why they tell you it is not appropriate to call them a Hebrew Israelite, because they know that they're not actually really truly Shemitic people, but they're claiming to be Shemitic people in a sense. And so anytime someone speaks against what they consider to be the so-called Jewish traditions and customs, they say you're anti-Semitic, when in reality, all he was saying is the true anti-Semitic people is the majority of the world, because the majority of the world are against the Shemitic people, the actual Shemitic people, in which there are many different families of the earth that are Shemitic people that are not Hebrew Israelites. So because Shem had several sons also, and all the sons of Shem are not Hebrew Israelites. So we need to get that understanding also. So there are many Shemitic people in the face of the earth, but Hebrew Israelites are descendants of the Shemitic bloodline. But every Shemitic person is not an Hebrew Israelite, nor is every Hebrew an Israelite. Okay, I just want to cover all these things while we're on this table of nations. All right. So moving on in verse 4. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Deuteronym, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. So what I want you to look at is, I can't pull it up because I'm no longer on my computer, so I would share the screen. But on your own reading time, what I want you to look at is in verse 5. If you're reading from the KJV version, in the Scriptures version and the Hallelujah version, it already, I believe it has it translated the proper way. It said, by these were the isles of the Gentiles. So that word Gentile is a more modern word that's used a lot of time in the church. It's a King James version rendering of some of the Greek translations and things like that. But that word there for Gentiles is H1471. And that word is goy. So when you use the term goyim, the IM ending for the Hebrew culture students, the IM ending makes it a masculine plural. So the singular form is goy. So the word for nation that's translated in the KJV for Gentiles is the Hebrew word goy, which is the word for nation, which is H1471. When we say goyim, there's more than one nation. There are nations plural, so they're called goyim. Okay, and we're used to, in the church, they've made it this word for Gentiles, and our people in the church don't want to keep any commandments because they're making it supposed to be in Gentile. Oh, I'm a Gentile, and I don't have to do that. That's for the Jews. When there's one law for whether you believe you're Israel or not, there's one law for the children of the Most High, as well as for commonly called Gentiles. But back to the focal point. So the word goy means nation, people. And then it would tell you also in the definition, usually of non-Hebrew people, but also of the descendants of Abraham. So even we are still goy, because to another nation, we are what? We are a goy, we are a nation. So we need to also understand the words that we read and the way some people utilize them for either hate or for derogatory terms, or whatever they may use it for, and just be informed that certain words that we use only defined to mean a simple word, which is nation or a group of people, which generally is normally a non-Israelite person. Why is it generally a non-Israelite person? Because if you an Israelite talking to an Israelite, or if you are the Most High talking to Israel, he's not going to refer to Israel as the nations, because he refers to Israel as his people, as Israel, and he tells Israel not to do what the Goyim do, the Gentiles or the nations, because you are my goy, you are my nation, or you are my Aim, or my people. So I call you Yisrael or Yasha'al. But now the Goyim who are not of your goy or of your nation, you refer to them as Goyim while you refer to yourself as Israel or Hebrews, okay? So I hope I'm not going too fast, but I just want to bring all these points out while we're there. So it's usually a non-Hebrew people because it's a word to translate as nations. But when you're looking at it in English in the KJV, it said, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. The word there for nations in 10 and 5 is the same word as there as Gentiles. So you see how sometime in the English, the text throws us off when it's interchanging words, the same thing. The word Gentile is the word nation or nations. So Goyim should be there twice. By this were the isles of the Goyim, or the nations, divided in their lands, and everyone after their tongue, after their family, in their Goyim, or in their nations, or in their goy, or in their nation. So it's the same word. So by the sons of Japhet are the isles of the Gentiles or the nations. So therefore, Ashkenaz is of the seed of Japheth, which makes him a Japhetic person and not a Shemitic person. And the Jews that actually run the land, that get more that are more recognized, that are in the land, the ones that have the little lock of hair showing with the black hats and stuff, those are the Ashkenazi Jews and not the Sephardic Jews. The Sephardic Jews are treated with less respect than the Ashkenazi Jews. Another topic for another time. Just want to cover that information. So verse 5, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue. So again, I want to focus on this word here for tongue. So it's going to be the word lashon, or some may say lashawan. Okay, so lashon or lashawan, depending on the Hebrew dialect. So lashon or lashawan, which is tongue or language. So again, when we get to the New Testament or the Brit Kadashah, when it's talking about speaking in tongues, we can see here from the very beginning of the Bible that nations were divided by their tongues, meaning the language that they spoke. Greeks speak Greek, Americans speak English, Chinese speak Chinese, Hispanics speak Spanish. There are different languages. And so that's what's called a tongue, a language or a tongue, a lashon, a lashona, which is going to be the feminine, okay? A lashawan. So if you hear somebody say they speak lashawan Quadash, they're saying they speak the ancient Hebrew, that is simply a dialect. Lashawan Quadash is no different than Lashon Kodesh or Lashon Kodash. It's set apart. It is the set apart tongue is what they're saying that they speak. So we see here that the term tongue is used to let it be known that when these families are divided in the earth, they're all divided. They're spread out through the earth. These nations all have languages also associated with them that they speak. So speaking in tongues is going, and that's why when you read now as we're coming out of Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, when normally everyone in the church is focusing on the gift of tongues, when we read it in context, it said that they heard them after the Ruach HaKodesh descended upon the Talmudim or the disciples when they were in the upper room, and those cloven tongues came upon them and gave them the gift to speak in the languages. All the people heard them in their own language where they were raised or where they were from, and said, these men are speaking in our tongue, but are they not all Galileans? Meaning they're all from Galilee. These men speak Hebrew, but I know I hear my language from the land where I live at. They're speaking all these different languages. So again, the tongue was not the Babylon Koshah that people do. The tongue is a language, and each nation has a language associated with them that was given to them by the Most High based upon the diaspora or the spreading of all the earth as it's populated. Okay. So now I'm dropping down to verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan. So while we're here in the Table of Nations, I just want to go here just for a little historical reading for the night. It says the sons of Ham, which is now the cursed one who's seen his father's nakedness, and the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan, right? So in the book of Proverbs, get it for me real quick. Give me Proverbs chapter 4 and start at verse 1 and read that while I find what I'm looking for in my dictionary. Mishlei of Proverbs chapter 4 and start with verse 1, Adon.
Proverbs 4, verse 1. Hear, ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to know understanding. For I give you good doctrine, forsake you not my law. For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also and said unto me, let your heart retain my words. Keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not. Neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve you. Love her, and she shall keep you. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding.
So you see, he's telling them to keep my law, keep my Torah, forget it not. And he says, wisdom is the principal thing. With all thy getting, get wisdom, but with all thy getting, get understanding. So it would be wise for us to not just read the word and for you not to just hear what I say to you, because we've done enough of just listening to someone present information. When we're in these studies, you should be taking notes so that you can go back and read the information for yourself do your own research for yourself, but I'm just a vessel that's sharing information for you to research for yourself. So with all that getting, we need to get wisdom, but with all that getting, we need to get understanding. We need to understand what it is we're reading. So now in the Table of Nations, we've already just with wisdom, we have seen that Ashkenaz and the Jews themselves consider themselves Ashkenazi Jew. So they consider themselves descendants of Ashkenaz, so they're Ashkenazi Jew. Ashkenaz is a descendant of Japheth, which is not even a Shemitic person to begin with, and is not an Israelite, because an Israelite comes through the seed of Shem, all right? So now we're going to the sons of Ham, Cush and Mitzrayim and Put and Canaan or Canaan. So could anyone tell me, where is Mitzrayim? The Most High said, Anoki Yahweh Eloheka. I am Yahweh Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Which did what? Which brought you out of what? The land of Mitzrayim. What land is Mitzrayim translated as in the KJV or in the English version Bibles? What is Mitzrayim translated as? Someone help me out.
Egypt.
Okay, Egypt. So Mitzrayim is Egypt. Does anyone know who Cush is?
Ethiopia.
Okay, so Cush are descendants of Ethiopia. So we have Mitzrayim and we have Cush, which is Ethiopia. So I'm going to read for you. Now these are the descendants of Ham. So I'm reading to you now from a Bible dictionary. It said Ham. The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, the Canaanites. His descendancy, we don't need to go much further. So it's letting you know that Ham is, and when you look at it, you know, some people refer to him as burnt face, because the word Ham means hot, and burnt face, there's different terms that's used, but it said Ham is the progenitor of the dark races such as Cush or the Ethiopians, the Mitzrites or the Egyptians. So it's letting you know that Ham is the father of a lot of the dark-skinned races, right? So now here in 8, it says, and Cush begat Nimshliga, and the sons of Ham, Cush and Mitzrayim in verse 6. Cush and Mitzrayim and Put and Canaan. So we know that the Ethiopians are a dark people, and we refer to them as Africans. It's telling you that the Egyptians were a dark-skinned people as well. And so whenever Israel went into the land of Mitzrayim, not the land of Mitzrayim, but the land of Canaan, and it says, and Put and Canaan. So if these are descendants of Ham, when they went into the land of Canaan, what type people were there? Are dark-skinned people, because the Canaan were what commonly is called Africans. There were people of what's commonly called African descent, living in what's commonly called the land of, well, now commonly called the land of Israel, but before it was called Israel, it was called the land of Canaan, and Canaanites were African descent. So these Africans that were there, so a lot of times, sometimes we get a little too caught up in Africa and African customs and traditions, which a lot of our brothers and sisters follow, because they want to go back to what's commonly called the motherland. The point being is, and this is not a knock, I don't knock Africa in any way, I'm not knocking that. What I'm saying is, the Most High himself had already said, as we have read in the book of Why You Cry, chapter 18, these people where you go through, Mitzrayim, the land of Canaan where I send you through, don't do after their customs. So where some people are wanting to worship the ancestors and all this stuff, that's Canaanite foolishness. That's African mess. And I'm not doing it in a knocking way. I just want us to be mindful that these traditions and customs that a lot of our people get caught up in, they're thinking they're returning back to the land and to the customs of their forefathers, when in actuality, you're not necessarily what's commonly called an African, because Africans are not Shemitic. Now, because it's on the continent of Africa, it's over in what's commonly called the Middle East, which is a whole nother term that we'll talk about later. Because it's over on the same continent, then yes, we are identified because of our dark colored skin as Africans, but we're Shemitic descent. That is the reason why when we were sold into slavery, a lot of people don't want to talk about it. A lot of Africans sold. They want to blame the white man for selling slaves. There was a lot of black men that sold slaves. Do you know why? Because those black men knew that you and them were different. Therefore, they sold you into slavery. Because they knew you were descendants of Israel. So this thing goes far beyond race of black and white, because black or dark-skinned people sold other dark-skinned people into captivity because they knew that there was a version of a dark-skinned people who were different than other dark-skinned people because of the Elohim they served and because they were a total different nation anyway. It says, and Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty, I'm now in verse 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before Yah. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yah. So Nimrod was a Cushite because he's of the seed of Cush. So Nimrod will be identified as what we commonly call today as an Ethiopian. So he was the power to be in the earth for a very long time back in his day. He was the one that was in rulership, and he descends from Cush, which is a Hamitic person, which is of Africa. That is the reason why some people gravitate towards certain things. So you have what they commonly call Ethiopian Jews. You also have what do we have? Rastafari and things like that. So sometimes you have different people proclaiming portions of the Most High's word, but maybe not the fullness of the Most High's word, because some of their customs are still going to be some of the customs of the old ways of the forefathers, and not really totally in submission to the Most High Yah. I don't have a full spectrum or full scope of all of what a Rastafari believe, but I do know that Rastafari do believe in the Most High. You know what I'm saying? And some of their traditions is Torah based. Some of their customs are not all Torah based, to my knowledge. Okay, but again, so Nimrod stems from Ethiopians or a Cushite. All right, it says, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Shinar. So I just want to stop at the word Babel for a moment. So the word Babel, which most of your ears will probably pick up the term Babel, but I'm going to say Babel, which is going to be confusion, and it's going to tell you confusion because that's the place where the Most High sent his Malachim to confound the language or to mix the language, because they were all speaking the same language at one point, and Nimrod was running the earth. And so the way he confounded the people, which we get to in the next chapter, is he confounded their tongues, again, which is their language, which is why there exists now the term unknown tongue. Because at one point when people could communicate together just with using wisdom and understanding, the whole earth was speaking a certain language at a time. The Most High seen what they could do. The Table of Nations let you know that these nations have their own language, because the Most High called languages to be confounded so that they could not communicate to continue to work together to build the tower that they were trying to build, because they could no longer communicate. So the Most High called that area that Nimrod was the ruler of Babel, or confusion. All right, what we at on time? Okay, let me get closer to my closing point. So I'm dropping now down to verse 20. These are the sons of Ham after their families. And since we use this term, mishpachah, for those who are not used to what you hear us use it, but the word there for their families, the reason why you hear us use the word mishpachah when we say shalom mishpachah, mishpachah is the word H4940 in Hebrew. And so we're just trying to get back to our customs and trying to build our vocabulary when using the words that are in Hebrew. So the word mishpachah translates as family, as clan or tribe, okay? So mishpachah is the word, when you see it in English, when you see the word mishpachah, that is the word that's going to be for family, and it can also be the word that's used for tribe or clan, okay? So it said, these are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and their goyim, and their nations. So Japheth has now produced nations. Ham is now produced nations. And now 21, unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born. Now you see the order, they went on and got it out of the way. They got the other nations, or the goyim, or the Gentiles, out of the way. Now they're about to focus on the nation of Shem, because it's important, because y'all did not leave anybody out. Everyone has still been recorded, their history has been written, and they have been identified as nations. They've been given languages, but also now the focal point is now shifting specifically to Shem, because now going forward, everything is now going to be on the focus of the seed or the lineage that's going to come through Shem. The Mashiach is Shemitic. Israel is Shemitic. Abraham is Shemitic. So the forefathers of righteousness, who this word was actually given directly to, Moses, was Shemitic. So now the Shemitic line is now about to be focused on, because he got the other nations out of the way in a summarized fashion, because now going forward, the focal point is on the lineage of Shem, which is the righteous line of the seed of the Most High. Most High's creation of man. So now it goes through, and unto Shem also, the father of the children of Eber. We've already said that the word Eber is where you get the term Hebrew from. So Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were born the children of Shem, Elam, Ashur, Aphaxad. Reading on, so you read the rest of the names for your own. It says, but now I'm going down to verse 30. And their dwelling was from Mishah, as thou goest unto Sephar, a mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem after their families, or their mishpachah, after their lashon, or their language, or their tongues, in their lands, after their goyim, after their nations. So we can see that, so we don't sound like some dummies or some idiots when we are trying to spew out hate. Here is where you can now see that when we say the term Gentile or nation or goy, generally focuses on a non-Israelite person, but now it's saying, now here's the sons of Shem, according to their families, according to their lashon, or according to their language or tongue, according to their goyim or their nations. Here are the nations that come from the family of Shem, because even Shem produces nations, in which Israel is the nation that comes from the seed of Shem, okay? These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations, in their goyim or their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So this is what's commonly called the Table of Nations, and here's where you can find the Table of Nations written in the scripts. So we're at 9:57, and instead of trying to cram too much information at one night, I think we covered a lot this far. Before your own reading time, you know, you can read more, and we will be touching on it next week. But I'm gonna give all praise, honor, esteem to the Most High. I pray and hope that this portion, this 4, has been well edified, well received. A lot of times we want to read the Bible as just as a spiritual book, but it's a history book. It is a law book. It is our guide in righteousness. It is our instructions in all. So with that, I give all praise, honor, esteem to the Most High Yah. I thank him for his wisdom, his knowledge, his wisdom, kokma, his da'at knowledge, and his vein or his understanding that he's blessing us with. So with that, all honor, esteem to the Most High Yah, halal Yah, halal Yah. And I yield the floor to the imams and the zakanim. If y'all have any words to share first, I open the floor to you all, and I yield.
Shalom again. I just like to say that there were lots of tidbits and nuggets in these 2 chapters. I mean, when I went through and read it, I didn't get all of it. There were certain words that stood out or what have you, but I took plenty of notes. It was very interesting and very well edified.
Total about for your words, Iman. Total about for your words. All praise, honesty to the Most High. It's a little hard for me to see my screen because I had to switch. So, Iman, if y'all are saying something, just, y'all can go in your order because like I said, I'm not on my computer right now.
Shabbat Shalom. It's a toe lesson, and I like how you brought out the history, because history is very important. Because sometimes people, like you said, they don't want to do the history of the Bible, and that's our history. Now this toe lesson.
Honesty to the Most High. Total for your words, Iman. Iman Shoshan, I don't know if you have your hand up or not. Did you have any words?
I'm in agreement with my sisters. Truly a blessed breakdown of our history and our genealogy, about the Cush and Ham's offspring, also with the nations being Gentile, what's that, Ashkenazi. I've heard the term before, but I wasn't sure. Ashkenazi Jews, I wasn't sure just what they were, who they were, but I'm clear now. Total Rebah. Total blessing.
All praise, honesty to the Most High. Barak is Kodash name. Allow Yah, allow Yah. Zakanim, do y'all have any words? Zakan Yakwa?
Hello, yeah. To blessing Moreh. I just wanted to kind of land back a little bit on how when we how can I put this, that a lot of times when we see these nations, like how you touch on when we came into the land of Israel, it was really originally the land of Canaan, the land of Canaan, and then once Israel was in there, then of course, referred to as the land of Israel. But the original people that were in there was not Shemite. And so we got to remember that too. At least that's the way I look at it sometimes when I'm reading. Like a lot of times you have to dig in there to see, just because they're saying that they're Canaanites doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, if you do your history and then you can rule that out, but sometimes just because they're in the land, they're called by that land, by the people. And sometimes we can get our history sometimes can get a little twisted up if we don't dig in and really see who that people are. And one thing too, like 2 Kings, where it talks about the king, I think it was Assyria, brought in people from like Babylon and one of those nations was Sephardim, that he brought in and put into the land of Samaria instead of the Israelites. And you mentioned the Sephardics and Ashkenaz. So if I'm just saying, just pay attention to those names. Those names are important, and you can miss a whole lot if you don't really, that's if you really looking into the history. But if you don't pay attention to those names, sometimes the history can get a little convoluted. I yield. Told blessing the way you brought it out.
Honesty to the Most High, and total for those nuggets that you just shared, Zakan, and how to focus on those names. So total for the addition. All praise, honesty to the Most High. Iman Lori, I believe I just seen your name pop on the screen somewhere. Iman, if you want the floor. If you're speaking, we don't hear you. I don't know if she got logged offline or not. Can you still see her on the screen, Zakan? Because I seen a name pop up, but then it went away. So I don't know if she's still on.
Who are we looking for, Moreh? I'm sorry.
It was Iman Lori's name. Her name came on the screen. I thought she might have raised her hand or something.
No, I don't see her online anymore.
Okay, she might have got dropped out. Maybe that could have been what I was seeing. She was dropping out. All right, Mishpachah, the floor is open to the rest of the Mishpachah. There's words, comments, questions. We open the floor for a few moments before we get ready to close out with Tefillah. So the floor is open. Thank you, Zakanim, for your words. Yes, sir, Shashmar.
Yeah, I just want to, total about for, to the Most High allowing you to bring out the lesson, also total about for the reading and everyone that brought out their points. I definitely learned a lot. So I know this is one thing to read the scripture, but it's another thing, to tie it into, the current events that are going on today and also the history, that is in the, the PDF docs and textbooks. So, I'll definitely add this to my personal notes, for my own Torah study though. So, all praise to the Most High. Yeah.
All praises, honor, and esteem to the Most High. Total for your words, Aki. Yes, sir, Zakane.
Slika Moreh, I just wanted to clarify, what I was talking about. When the king brought in those other nations into Samaria, he also brought in a Levite, a priest, to teach those foreigners about the ways of Yah. So they grew up, a couple of generations later, grew up thinking that they're Israel,
Right.
And so that's what I'm saying. So like a lot of those that are in Israel now, and even some of these other lands, like Ethiopia, when we did our diaspora, we came through those areas, and we weren't just there overnight. We were there for 20, 30 years before we moved on, and some of us even stayed in those Ethiopic lands and taught our traditions and our way of life too. So some of those generations grew up thinking that they're Israel by blood too. I just wanted to make that point, the way you how you brought it out, how the people, the original people there are the Canaanites, but you got to see who is in that land now and how they got there.
Told for that, Zakane. And that's the reason why, based upon what Zakane just said, that's also the reason why we don't need to get caught up in, I think I might be frozen. Zakane, can you hear me?
I'm Moreh, you loud and clear.
Okay, my screen, it looks as the internet might be going again. Yeah, so that's why also it tells us not to struggle with genealogies and debating on who someone is or isn't. If someone is serving the Most High, halal, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because there are going to be some people that are, like he said, because they brought the priests and they were trained up, and over generations, they became accustomed to being the people, and so some people with their heart are actually truly trying to serve the Most High, and they've been raised in the land under the traditions and customs, praising the Most High, and then there are people that have a title placed upon them for the land that they live in, and they're not even of the nation that they live in, but they become that. Just like Paul was identified as a Roman citizen, but Paul was a Hebrew Israelite, you know what I'm saying? Or Shaul, a proper pronunciation, but they call him in the Brit Kadashah New Testament era, they call him Paul, but he was actually a Hebrew Israelite, but he was referred to as a Roman because he was raised up in Roman territory. He was a citizen in Roman territory. So these things, and it can get very murky. And so as it get murky, the principle is, are we keeping the commandments of the Most High, or is someone against the commandments of the Most High? So that's why we don't struggle with these genealogies, and we should do the best we can with much study, prayer, fasting, and guidance from the Most High. So Toda Zakane. Mishpachah, the floor is open if anyone else have any words. The floor is open. All right. All right. Well, we're going to give all honor and esteem to the Most High. May his name be esteemed. I thank him for the Shabbat that he's. Oh, okay. Slika. Iman, yes, ma'am. Iman Arden.
Something just came back to my memory. I can remember years ago when Herman was doing Bible study here in the home, and I remember him and Thurman talking about the Akhenazi. but anyway, it's like we were learning who the Ashkenazis were and who the other nations or Goyim were, but that was before we knew who we were. And it's very important that we know who we are. So now that shines a different light on it for me, because at that time we didn't know who we were. So I'm glad that you went back over that again, that we had that review, because I remember that study that we had years ago.
All praises, all praises. Thank you for sharing that, Iman. Thank you for sharing that. Praise, all praise, honesty to the Most High. Rock his Kodash name. All right. So, Mishpachah, again, one of my teachings that I would teach, you know, and I just want to go back to it. The word tells us in Timothy, study to show thyself approved, a workman that need not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And the book of Thessalonians 5:21 tells us to prove all things, hold fast to that which is good, reject that which is evil. So do your due diligence when information is presented, that you take your own notes, you study, you pray, you ask the Most High to reveal to you things, because we all should study to show ourselves approved, and we should prove all things and hold fast to that which is good, and reject that which is evil. So and as I would say when I would teach this lesson, while I'm in my right ruach, which I pray I'm always in the right ruach, I would like to always let people know that you know, always still study to show yourself approved when we present this, so that you can see what the Most High's word says for yourself. And Most High forbid that I'm in error, but if I'm in error, I need to be corrected, or you need to know, and the way that you know is by studying to show yourself approved, holding fast to that which is good, and rejecting that which is evil. But Most High forbid I ever willingly present anything evil or erroneous to his people, before his people, in his set apart name. So halal Yah. Toda Yah for allowing us all to gather together on the Shabbat day. Oh, Mishpachah, it was such a high time seeing you all. I can't wait to when we can all see each other again in fellowship, but not just the ones that we did see, but the ones we didn't see, so we can all be in fellowship together. I look forward to that again soon. So again, I'm gonna be sounding like a broken record, because start preparing for Sukkot now. Sukkot is coming up in October this year, so you have months to prepare. So start preparing for Sukkot. If you've never kept a Sukkot with us, all praise be to the Most High. It is a high time. All its feasts are high time, but I mean, that is a time where we're together for a long period of time. We are Mishpachah. We are a family, tribe, of clan. It's full of word. It's full of praise. It's full of survival or dwelling together, being our brother and sister's keeper. It is beautiful what Yah, even though, we ain't no camping type people and dwell in no woods, but Sukkot is a delight. And so I pray and I hope that we can spend that time together. For those that can do the 8 days, we do it big and we love it. If you can't do the whole thing, if you can do a part of it, start planning now to try to make Sukkot, because we plan to have a high time in praising the Most High. So you will hear me, the same way the world advertised Christmas, I'm going to be advertising the upcoming feast, and start preparing yourself for Yom Kippur, a day of atonement, which is a day of repentance and so on and so forth. But start trying to prepare yourselves to see if you can start making arrangements to make Sukkot, and let us know way ahead of time, so we can try to do anything we can to aid anyone that would love to experience that time of being like real Israel, or real tribe of Mishpachah in the wilderness, gathered together, trying to worship and praise the Most High, sun up to sundown, and watching the stars by the campfire. We would love for everyone to be able to partake. So I give all honor and esteem to the Most High. Thank you for this beautiful word that has drawn us all together, that we are now delighting in. So may the Most High watch over, bless, and protect each and every one of you on this Shabbat. I now yield the floor to Sar Yohanan for the closing tefillah.
Carry down. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpachah. Let's clear all our minds. Blessed be you, Yahuwah Elohim, our Redeemer, our bright light, our Almighty, our Redeemer, our King, our Creator, in our refuge forever. Bless us who you had gathered in your presence, who you turned to you, Abba, in all distress, not only in our personal need, but the distress of the nations, of your people, Abba, of this world that you created. Grant that we forevermore be your children with a simple faith that's give us strength to go on working when we continue surrounded by stress, wickedness, things that is not of you, Abba. We want to say Toda Yah for giving us so much grace, so much faith, so much love, so much protection, for always helping us and never forsaking us. So that again and again, we, your children, can find joy in his praise and esteem your set apart name. Because you are our Father. You are our Elohim, our power. You are our protector. And you are our Ish, the head over us, who protect us from anything that's tried to attack us. May your name be praised from the heaven above all the way down to the earth below. May your name be praised by all your children from the four corners of the earth, Abba. That your children esteeming you, singing praises to you, and you can hear them from the four corners of the earth, Abba. We ask you to hear our prayer, Abba. We have people that's in this walk that's struggling to stay in this walk, Abba, because of outside entities, Abba, that's trying to draw them away from you, Abba. That spiritual warfare is so real surrounding your children, Abba. There's ones that seeking you, Abba, that they're constantly getting attacked by the adversary, Abba. I just ask you to put your spirit in each and every one of us and all your children, Abba, from the four corners of the earth, Abba, to put that shield of protection from the adversary, Abba, that try to draw us away from you, Abba, that do not want to see that relationship that you and us have, Abba. It's so hard, Abba, to see the ones that come to you, Abba, stray away from you, Abba, due to the temptations of their loved ones that use them as the adversary using them, Abba, to turn them away from you. Because that adversary, that Shaitan, is crafty. He is crafty, Abba. And he will use our loved ones, Abba, to try to separate us from you. Let's follow the custom of our ancestors who did righteousness, Abba, who rebuked it, all what the adversary tried to do that was against you, Abba. The struggle is real out here, Abba. The adversary is trying to destroy your children, Abba. This land we're in, Abba, it continue attacking your children, Abba. It's coming, Abba, that a lot of things that are happening, Abba, with the food shortages, the prices rising up high and gas and everything. That's the thing that everybody's using so they can lose faith in you, Abba, and say, man, how am I gonna survive financially with all this, Abba? And Abba, who to say it could be a test from you, Abba? We've seen the test that you used back in our ancestor days, Abba. We see when you use your time to test your servant, Abba. And the things that your faithful servant went through, Abba, and he stayed strong in you, Abba. He kept faith in you no matter what was going on with him, Abba. He stayed faith in you, Abba. So let your children be a prime example of your servant, Ayo, Abba. And stay strong in faith in you, Abba. No matter what the adversary throws at us, Abba, no matter what financial difficulty we go through, Abba, that we always can lean and trust in you, Abba. And you will get us through it. Toda Yah for our elders, for all the wisdom they share to the young generation, Abba. Toda Yah to all your Morehs, Abba, who continue bringing out the lessons and teachers, Abba, trying to bring us back to you, Abba. And balance their family life, Abba, which is a lot. But they know they have a duty under you, the great shepherd, Abba, to lead us sheep back to you. Toda Yah for your love. Toda Yah for your service that you give us. Toda Yah for the food and raiment and the clothes and the transportation, roof over our head, Abba, that you provide for us. Toda Yah for our finances, Abba. Toda Yah for giving us the ability to work, to take care of our family, Abba. Toda Yah for family. And Toda Yah for your Shabbat. We love you, Abba. We serve you. We honor you. And we esteem your set-apart name. Blessed be you, Yahuwah Elohim, the great one. Blessed be the name Yahuwah Elohim, our Almighty. And blessed who come to the name Yahuwah Elohim, the Redeemer. And everybody on the line say, Hallelujah, 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 Shalom, Amen.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Oh yeah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right. Let's say Shabbat Shalom and Laila Tov, Mishpachah. May the Most High watch over, bless, protect you. May you enjoy the rest of your rest on this night, and may we be able to fellowship again in the AM portion. So, Ahab and Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Mishpachah. Hallelujah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
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 Fam.
Shalom.
Ahava